Cool, so we're going to have a play with two pieces of software, both online and both that run in the web browser. One is called Mozilla Spoke and one is called Mozilla Hubs. They come in two parts. The first part we're going to look at is Spoke. Now, Spoke is a piece of software that we can use to build a virtual interactive space that we can move around in. Think about the kind of interactions that you might have inside a video game: up, down, left, right, move, pick an object up, chat. But this software we can do more. So we'll have a look at Spoke, the first half, and then in the next video we'll have a look at Hubs, where we'll be able to interact in this space. So the website we want to go to is hubs.mozilla.com/spoke. This runs best in the Firefox web browser, but don't panic, it does work in any web browser. So this is our landing page. I'm going to hit this big Get Started button. If you have an account and you're logged in, you'll already have any of the previous scenes that you've made before. So that's why I've got some of these here. So don't worry if this is looking empty for you. I'm going to hit New Project. There are some templates that are now loading of some different scenes and things that we can start off with as our base for our story. Some elements that we can add into here. There's a conference room, an island, a matrixy kind of space. These are just the featured ones. We can search for things, put some terms in there, have a look, see what's there, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to start with this one, which is kind of empty, just so I can show you how we can add and build in all of our elements. So because this is web browser based, if you haven't got the best broadband connection, it may take a moment to load. If you're a whiz and have got fibre broadband, I'm jealous, and this should run no problem. So let's explain what's going on in this window. So along the top here are some elements that we'll come back to, but essentially these we can change, move our objects and pick things up and things around. But at the minute we've not really got a lot in here. We've got some ghosty type people. So these ghosts are to scale. These are our avatars. So this is the scale of the people who will be looking and interacting and walking around, running, flying even, around our virtual space. So these are handy to have in here so we know the scale that we're working towards. It's looking a little bit empty, so let's add some elements in here. So we have some things along here. We can add some models. So if you've got 3D models, we can add a plane. This is the ground bit that you might walk on. We can add a collider. This will stop you walking through things. Kind of handy if you're building something like a maze so someone can't walk all the way through it. We can add some light, so we can make it more sunny, which is always nice. There's various different types of light that we can add in here. We've got spawn light, so spawn point even. So the spawn point is where, when someone enters into this space, that's where they're going to start off with. So if you need your person to start in a particular point, we can do that. And then we have a waypoint. So if you want to have key points in your scene that you want someone to teleport to, we can put those there. Otherwise, we can just let people wander around. We can put images and videos in here. We can also put 360 videos in here for anyone who's ever dabbled with 360 filmmaking. Don't worry if you haven't. We can also add sound, which is really cool. And we've got a few other things such as links, so we can link to a different website. A particle emitter, it's really cool. You have these like particles that emit and go around, and we have some simple water if you want a pond or a lake. And we have a media frame to add some other media objects and a preview. So let's add some of these elements. So I want an image in my scene. How do I do that? I click on it, I drag it, and it appears. It's as simple as that. It's drag and drop. So at the minute, there's no image popping up, there's no preview here. So what we need to do is we need to put a URL in this box down here on the right that my head is partially covering at the moment. And once we've put a web link in this box that my head is partially covering, this image will appear in our space. I'm just going to drag a video in here. Now, because Hubs is web browser based, WebXR platform, it means any images, videos, any kind of media content that we want on here, it's going to be calling and looking for a web link so it can appear. So word to the wise, any content that you want to happen, appear in your scenes, you're going to have somewhere that's hosted online that's publicly accessible. I'm going to quickly add a few different videos in here and another image into my scene, and I'm going to pause to quickly grab some URLs of some goats. So I've just added off screen some hyperlinks that will take us to that will display these images, but just to quickly show you, so you can use a search engine of your choice. I've got the legendary Bing search engine. To get the direct image link to this, we want to open image in new tab. This will say something very similar depending on your web browser, but we want the image link, so we're just getting this image. We don't want this one because this is the link to our search. We want the link that's just to our image. So just double checking that we've got those. So I've got a couple of goats in here. Let's add some of these other elements. So if you've uploaded any models, images, videos, audio, you can access these here. But we're going to have a play and see what's accessible on here. So there's a wonderful architecture kit. It's kind of like Lego, but for walls and building buildings. So if we want to drag walls, build a house, that sort of thing, we can do that. If we want to move things around, you'll notice that I've been pulling on these arrows that'll move things up, down, left and right. If you want to change the scale, maybe make it a bit bigger, there's some numbers over here on the right, so I can change the scale. I can also rotate things, but I'm going to keep it as it is at the moment. We can also click on some of these buttons in the top left corner. So I've just clicked this one, so we can do it manually by moving our objects. So have a play with the architecture kit for building your room. There is loads of elements that are already in here. I'm going to move on. So we've got some rocks here, if you want to add some rocks to your scene, that these are built in. So some of them are huge. We're currently inside this one. If you want to change the scale, so these are like tiny rocks, we can do this. I think this actually looks kind of interesting. It's like we're inside a cave, so I'm going to keep that. Sketchfab is an online platform for uploading and sharing 3D models, and if you've got 3D models in GLTF file format, then you can, if you've got a Sketchfab account that you've put those onto, you can search here and pull them in, or you can just search and use someone else's. Same with Google Poly. Google Poly is a platform for sharing 3D models, and you can search by category down here, or you can search in here. You can add images and videos from Bing. I'm probably the only human left still using Bing, but here we go. You can add images and videos here. A really cool feature of Hubs is the built-in sound library. So there's loads of sounds in here that we can add into our scene. To do that, we drag and drop, and we've got the sounds in here. And there's some handy controls that we can change. So we've got loop. Loop is just it will loop on and on. Autoplay, it will play on its own. But we can also change the volume. Drag and drop that, make that louder or quieter. We can also change the roll-off factor and the minimum maximum distance. So if you want to put a sound so it sounds like it's coming from a very particular point, we can change and position this sound. So have a play and see what happens when you change some of these numbers. How does that change the sound? Okay, and the best till last, in my opinion, you can add gifs or gifs, depending on how you prefer to pronounce that word, into your scene. You can search for them, you can drag and drop them. If you've got your own, you can upload them. So let's add, we've got SpongeBob here, let's add SpongeBob into our scene. And there's another SpongeBob, not looking too happy, but we'll put SpongeBob here. We'll make this one, oops, go back. We've kind of got SpongeBob inside of the thing, so let's move SpongeBob. Okay, so this is by no means a masterpiece. Have a play, build your scene, and when you're happy with it, when you've got something that you want to test, we can publish it to something called hubs. To do this, there's this button up here in the top right corner, publish to hubs. We can give it a file name, wide open space. I'm going to leave it as that, and it will save. Now, depending on your broadband connection, some of these elements may take a moment or two. If you've used any elements, files and things from Sketchfab, Poly, etc., it will show those attributions to those files that you've used, just to share the love and show that you've used someone's work in your space. When you're ready, hit save and publish. Now what it's doing now is exporting our scene. Now because this is web browser based and we're running in the web browser, if we've got 4K mega ultra HD content, that kind of thing, it's going to run quite slowly if someone accessing this hasn't got the best connection. So this has a traffic light system. We're all in the green at the moment, we don't have a lot of things in here, so this should run pretty happily on most people's browsers. But if you're in the red, you've probably got a lot of content in here, so think about the speeds. If it's running slow, and this is because this is red, showing you there's a lot in there, you might want to take out some elements or change your file size. So I'm going to go publish scene, and at the moment it's doing pretty well, loading. We'll just give it a minute or two to do this, and again it might be quite quick if you're a lucky human. Okay, so our scene is published. I'm going to hit OK. So now I have the option to open in hubs, so I'm going to click this button and it's going to open in hubs. I'm going to stop here and I'll see you in the next video for exploring our open space.